Welcome back into the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap, presented by Full Press Coverage. The NBA season is creeping closer and closer as preseason games have actually tipped off. And before the season starts, teams are still making some moves to finalize their rosters. And that includes my beloved Celtics, who are trying desperately to get any sort of positive headlines going in their direction after all this Ime Udoka black cloud that's hanging above the team. And they announced this week that they are signing, and now it's been official, Blake Griffin to be a part of the team. Now, that comes with the major caveat that is Blake Griffin, the player in 2022, not Blake Griffin, the player from 2015. So I expect him to provide some veteran leadership, hopefully, and that's probably about it, Sap. Though he does take charges, which I love. What do you think Blake Griffin provides the Celtics?
Yeah, maybe he and Marcus Smart can have a contest to see which player will take the most charges on the Celtics. That's something he does do.
The top three guys in charges drawn in the league last year: Smart, White, and Blake Griffin. They're monopolizing that position.
Great. Let's really ugly the game up, muck it up, and then we can maybe have a lot of replays and see if it's a charge or a block. And I'm sure Rex Chapman, who's a great follow on Twitter, right? The name of his Twitter account, I think, is block or charge, or at least he has that as part of his, social media. So I'm sure he's happy with all three of these guys on the Celtics together and see what happens. I don't know if I'd go too much with his leadership. He's been more of a follower than a leader, but he's just a body. And he's probably going to take up some of the minutes that Danilo Gallinari was supposed to have, but he's out for the season with the knee injury. Also, he can spell Al Horford a little bit because Horford is 36 going on 37. So you want to limit him a little bit. So you have a fresh Al Horford for the postseason, because you're not going to have Rob Williams III until 2023. So they're going to have to kind of figure out what they do with some of their bigs. I was still kind of pushing for Dwight Howard as a backup big man. But from what I understand, Dwight Howard and Al Horford aren't exactly best friends. In fact, Al Horford, I think, despises Dwight Howard. So maybe that wouldn't have worked out. But, guys that don't get along can still be on a team together. It doesn't mean you have to be best friends with everyone. And if we're making all decisions based on Al Horford, maybe we're losing sight of what the Celtics should be trying to accomplish this year.
I wonder where that stems from, the Al Horford, Dwight Howard thing. I know Dwight Howard has not been the easiest guy to get along with, but they have, to my knowledge, not been on the same team before.
No, because when Howard went to Atlanta, I think Horford was already gone.
Right, that's what I thought.
They're two totally different types of players, right? I mean, Al Horford is this kind of quiet guy who goes about his business, is considered a leader, although that, I always question when guys are thrown out there as leaders. And Dwight Howard, quite frankly, can be kind of a clown. We know that. But Definitely. Sometimes you need one guy like that on the roster. And again, I think he'd still play in a limited role. But anyway, they have Blake Griffin, and we'll see what he brings. We saw last year in the playoffs, I thought he brought some energy to the Nets in that playoff series against the Celtics. But on the defensive end, man, was he exposed by Jaylen Brown. So I would assume that Joe Mazzulla and the coaching staff will not put him in the same position of having him cover the team that he's playing against, second best player. I think they have other guys that can do that. The Nets, of course, last year was not a real good defensive team. The Celtics are a good defensive team, so you're not going to expose Blake Griffin's defensive shortcomings at this point. But it's just a shot in the dark. Maybe he gives you 12, 14 minutes a night. Maybe there's some nights that he plays more than that if you're giving Al Horford the night off or whatever, and he could just be a piece on the roster. The key here, even more so than losing their coach, Ime Udoka, is how soon will Rob Williams come back and what condition will he be in and how long can he play for the season? That, to me, is the biggest question for the Boston Celtics. They're a totally different team when Rob Williams is on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, he's a game changer. We saw that even when he was playing in the postseason and in the finals at 70%, 60%. He was still a really impactful player. There's not a lot of players like him in the league in terms of the rim protection that he provides, and obviously Blake Griffin's not providing that. He doesn't have the athleticism that he did 7-8 years ago. He's calling him a role player at this point in his career is even a little bit generous. I do think he's an above average passer for his position, which is, maybe something that intrigues the Celtics. He does shoot 3-pointers. He's not particularly adept at making 3-pointers. He hit a couple in the playoffs, but I wouldn't say you can rely on him for doing that. Yeah, like you said, Sap, he's just a body. He seems to be, to like the guys on the team. The guys on the team seem to like him, and everybody's saying the right things. And so, that's a good thing. You want as many positive vibes as possible. And he at least seems like, he's, like you said, Dwight Howard's kind of a clown. Blake Griffin at least seems like he's sort of like a professional, and he's anxious to win a ring. And so, to that end, he's gonna, go about his job in a very serious way, I would expect. But to think he's going to be a difference maker in this team, I think is very optimistic. He seems like an end of the bench guy. I know he played, I think, like 17 minutes a game for the Nets last year in the regular season, which actually surprised me. I thought it was going to be way lower than that, but we saw he played sparingly in the playoffs, and like you alluded to, Sap, he was lit up by Jaylen Brown virtually every single time they matched up. So I don't think that there's any reason to get too excited about this signing. I do wonder if they're looking for somebody to fill those Gallinari minutes, why Carmelo Anthony wasn't necessarily the call. I think he provides more than Blake Griffin does at this point in his career. Maybe it's just a matter of Carmelo doesn't want to move all the way across the country. It could be that. I don't know. Carmelo has got a wife, and I think he's got kids as well. So it might be that. Blake Griffin, to my knowledge, is not married or has kids. I know there's a rumor on the internet that he fathered a child with a porn star, possibly true, but he's not raising the kid. Yeah, again, it's just a body, Sap. You said it perfectly, and the Celtics, I think, still are in need of more of a backup center while Rob Williams is out. Dwight Howard would have made a little bit more sense, like you're saying to me, but okay, if there's chemistry issues, you don't want to do any damage to the chemistry of the team. But I don't see Blake Griffin really doing much of anything.
No, 12 minutes, 14 minutes. There'll be nights he doesn't play. There'll be nights he plays a little bit more because maybe you're giving a player a night off. You want to save as much as you can with Al Horford, and he goes about his business at that point. So again, it's kind of just a small move. He's your ninth guy, I would say. And then he becomes your 10th guy once Rob Williams comes back. And if you add another piece, he falls even further down the bench. But these are the type of moves that contending teams make all the time. And sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle, and the guy, his career's rejuvenated because he's in a winning situation and he's playing with some young guys that may have looked up to him. And he gives you one last shot, and he's trying to win a ring. I think this would put to bed any chance of Carmelo Anthony coming here. Maybe right. Carmelo stays with the Lakers. Would have a chance to contend with the Lakers if Anthony Davis and LeBron are healthy. I think they can contend. I know a little bit later in the podcast, we're going to give out our Western Conference power rankings as the season approaches. But yeah, this is just a small move. In a sense, it becomes talked about because it's the Celtics, a playoff contender, a championship contender, and a team we talk quite a bit about. I'm sure if there's somebody doing a podcast in Denver, they're not talking about Blake Griffin going to the Celtics, or if it's, a 2-minute session on their podcast.
Right. Of course. It's just, it's not, the name is much bigger than the actual impact is going to be, the name, because he's, was a multiple time All-Star earlier in his career. He's so far removed from that. So you got to keep that in mind, obviously, if you're a Celtics fan and not have any sort of expectations for Blake Griffin, I think is the best way to go about it. But Sap, there's other news. It's not always Celtics news on this show or throughout the NBA. As down south in Miami, they've come to an agreement with Tyler Herro. The details of the extension are 4 years, $130 million, average annual value of $32.5 million. I'm not a big Tyler Herro fan. He seems to believe he's better than he actually is. That being said, he's certainly a good NBA player. He's sixth man of the year. And the Heat, I don't see that the Heat really had much of a choice besides to extend him. But for me, if I was in charge of a team, I don't know if I'd be thrilled about paying Tyler Herro that much money.
Right. I think that obviously you look at it at some point that he's a good player, sixth man of the year. I think he's become somewhat of a star because he's got a personality. He's playing in Miami. We know all about that. The problem I see with this, and this is one issue I have with the NBA, and look, I hope the players make as much money as they can, pay Steph Curry $50 million a year, pay LeBron $50 million a year, whatever. That's the way to go. But Tyler Herro, to me, is a secondary player, and he's going to be making $32.5 million a year going forward. It seems to be, an overpay. But again, as you said, Miami really had no choice here because most of their top players are damn old. Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, these guys are on the back nine for sure. Bam Adebayo is one of their better players. He's right in his prime, but they've got a pretty old roster, so they got to keep the young players on board. And you hope he just grows as much as he can. But, there's a ceiling with Tyler Herro. I think he's a 20 points per game scorer, a guy who can get hot from 3-point territory. But that's about it. I don't see him being a 25, 26 points per game scorer, or maybe even making an all-star team. Maybe he could sneak in 1 year as an all-star. Heck, Danny Ainge and Byron Scott both made an all-star team once a long time ago. It can happen. There's always, one or two guys that you look at and go, oh, he made the all-star team in that given year. But that's about it. I also think that you're going to see these numbers continue to grow because in 2 years, 3 years, the new TV contract will go into effect, and each team in the league for a 10-year period is going to make $275 million per year just on their TV contract, their national TV contract. So the salaries are only going up, and, wait till the huge stars start signing, $60, $70 million a year contracts, similar to big soccer players in Europe. That's what you're going to see in the NBA going forward. So at some point, this deal will probably be a bargain. Although right now it seems like an overpay, but you nailed it, Jet. They had no other choice but to do this. They need to keep whatever talent they have on that roster because the Eastern Conference is damn deep, and Miami's right there at the top of the league and trying to contend for a title.
You're right, Sap, in saying that it's, as the TV contracts come up, these will probably look like a bargain. And so, yeah, today it looks like an overpay, but, in a year from now, it looks different. And I think that's exactly what's going to be the case here. I think just, in terms of evaluating the player, he had his rookie year a phenomenal playoffs, especially against the Celtics in the bubble. He was outstanding. He looked like he was going to be a major star potential player in this league. He regressed his sophomore season. And then last year was probably his best year as a pro, won Sixth Man of the Year, as you alluded to, but we saw him in the playoffs. The Heat got all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. He didn't really have much of an impact on that playoff run whatsoever. He's a little bit of a defensive liability. Maybe I'm being kind. He's a defensive liability. He's not as confident of a scorer as he is. I don't think he necessarily has the best shot selection. And I don't think that you can run an offense through him. So his ceiling right now, Sap, the way I see it, is maybe a third scorer on a really good team. If he could be a second scorer on a good team, third scorer on a championship contending team. He's certainly not somebody I would build a team around. I do think he has, value as a scorer. Obviously, you saw him win Sixth Man of the Year, which usually goes to the best bench scorer. He's said that he doesn't want to do that anymore. He wants to be a starter. He wants to be, the alpha dog. That's not going to happen while Jimmy Butler's on the team. In fact, it's not going to happen while Bam Adebayo's on that team. He's not as good as those two guys.
Or Pat Riley running it and Eric Spoelstra coaching it. Those are the two guys in the organization that make those decisions. So, yeah, he's going to have to be content to be a sixth man for the next several years. And you look at him, he came out of Wisconsin, was a recruit at Kentucky, moved up the draft board, and Miami was able to draft him one slot before the Celtics, I think, were interested in him, although we always hear that Danny Ainge was always interested in everybody that was coming out of the draft. And then he had that good first year, mostly in the bubble, where he destroyed the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then his second year, I think he just kind of embraced the lifestyle of being in Miami. I mean, if you're a 22-year-old kid making money and you're a fairly good-looking kid with a personality in Miami, I mean, what better place to be? But in some ways, what worse place to be than Miami in terms of trying to grow your career? I think in the third year, he kind of settled down. So we'll see if he continues to mature. But look, good for him to sign that contract. I mean, they put it in front of you. Give me the pen. I'll sign it. Right.
Of course. And I think, if you just, again, look at his raw numbers last year, really good, 20 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. That seems very well rounded. But you have to look at what happened in the playoffs where he just was not effective at all. And it seemed like the moment was too big for him. In the postseason, Sap, 15 games, 12 points, 2 assists, almost 4 rebounds. So the points per game dropped off dramatically. 8 points is a huge difference. So I think that, that's definitely a concern. My biggest takeaway from this contract signing, besides the fact that the Heat, sort of had to do it to keep, young players around, is that they want to keep control of him in order to possibly do what the Heat like to do, which is come up with some sort of trade package where they can get a bigger, better star player. So I think that was important to make sure, he's on the roster. We have him on this contract. Like you said, Sap, it may look like a favorable contract in a year or two anyways, and that the Heat are always going to be bigger game hunting. So they will look at Tyler Herro as, okay, he's 22. He's somebody that we can entice maybe another team into buying. We heard about him being, involved in Kevin Durant rumors, him being involved in Donovan Mitchell rumors. Now those teams didn't seem particularly interested in him. So maybe it's the next star level player that comes up that maybe a team will be interested in Tyler Herro. We'll have to see.
Yeah, he's an asset. So whether he continues to grow as a player or a trade chip a year from now, maybe Kevin Durant talks his way out of Brooklyn, wants to go to Miami, and Tyler Herro's part of that package. So yeah, the Heat know what they're doing. They're a well-run organization. And, the numbers are just startling because it's a huge contract for a player who's, a very good player, but not a great player. But this is the business of the NBA.
Yeah. So we'll see. I again would guess that Tyler Herro is going to have a similar stat line this year, as my best guess. But I don't think, again, he's somebody that you can say, okay, this is a core piece to a championship team based off of what he did in the postseason. He is only 22, so there's no reason to think he can't get better. I don't want to, just say this guy is what he is, but I'm not a huge fan of the player. I think he's good. I think he got way overhyped, and I think that his best role is probably what he was exactly last season. So we'll see what that means for him and the Heat. But right now, he's going to enjoy his money. Good for him. Like you said, put the contract in front of him. He'll sign. And I'm sure he's very happy today. So let's move over to the other side of the country, Sap, on the West Coast, as your Lakers get ready to start their season. And right before the season begins, there's a report. I think it was it from Woj or Shams, Sap, about the potential trade that they wanted.
I think it was Shams, but at some point it's probably both of them, right?
Yeah, it's always both at some point, right?
It almost seems like, Woj puts the crumbs out and then you get more of the details from Shams. It's like Woj is so pressured to put out something, to validate his $9 million per year that he makes from ESPN, that maybe doesn't have all the details, but he runs with something. And then Shams comes in a few hours later and seals the deal, and you just follow both of those guys and you get most of this stuff. But yeah, I mean, the Lakers are always involved in rumors, right? And this isn't a new one. It's something that's been talked about in the off season. We're gonna have to see if it comes to fruition, which I doubt, but it would be an interesting move on the part of the Lakers if they're able to execute it.
Right. So the trade rumor is what basically you've been hearing for months, and not the Kyrie one, the one with the Indiana Pacers, and the report being that the Lakers were very close to pulling the trigger on trading Russell Westbrook and an unprotected pick in 2027, an unprotected pick in 2029, first round picks, I should say, for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. According to Shams, Sap, that is who had it first. The Lakers front office was basically split, and that's why the trade didn't end up happening, was that they couldn't come to a consensus. So they decided to keep their picks, keep Russell Westbrook, and start the season. But the way that the report was implied is that the Lakers could revisit this at some point. If I'm the Indiana Pacers, I say, okay, well, the longer you wait, the more you're going to have to pay. So find some other assets to give us too. So from a basketball standpoint, I think that adding Hield and Turner would be a no-brainer move from, if you're trying to maximize this roster in terms of winning a championship. I think that those are two pieces that would really help them. They seem petrified to give up those picks in 2027 and 2029 because I think they realize they're by then are probably going to suck. So, those could be potentially valuable picks. That being said, we're we're in 2022. Those are very far down the line. I don't think you can try to, plan 5-7 years down the future. You got to try to win now. So Sap, again, I'm not rooting for the Lakers. I hate them. I would have done the move if just from a basketball standpoint, think it's the smartest move for them to do.
Yeah, you'd have a starting five of Miles Turner, Anthony Davis, and LeBron up front, provided Anthony Davis plays center. And again, we got a lot of positionless basketball right now, but just think of a front court of Turner, Davis, and LeBron. That's pretty darn good. Even on both ends of the floor, those guys can all play defense. You'd have Beverly in the backcourt with Buddy Hield, and then you'd have Dennis Schroeder as your sixth man, and you kind of fill out the bench from there. I think that would be a contending team without question. And you get rid of Russell Westbrook, who was a disaster last year. But from what we hear, Darvin Ham, the new head coach, likes Russell Westbrook and thinks he's going to fit into his system. And supposedly Russell Westbrook worked on his catch and shoot in the offseason. So I don't know. Is he all of a sudden going to maybe crack 30% from three-point land, which, would be a minor miracle? He's been under 30% as a three-point shooter the last couple of years. Heck, he's like a 65% free throw shooter as a point guard. And his misses are bad. I mean, his misses are like Tebow-esque. Like he hits the shot clock, he throws it over the backboard. It's kind of ugly. So we'll have to see what happens with the Lakers. But my point with the Lakers is just see the difference how two organizations are run. The Miami Heat are run by Pat Riley, right? Like this contract came from Pat Riley with Tyler Herro. I'm sure ownership probably just nodded and said, go ahead and do what you got to do. And I'm sure Eric Spoelstra was on board and you just went from there. With the Lakers, it's like, the Supreme Court, you got 9 different people involved that get involved in this, right? You got to appease LeBron at some point. Now you've got a coach in Darvin Ham who seems to have a pretty strong personality, which can be a good or a bad thing. Rob Pelinka is supposed to be the general manager. I don't know what Kurt Rambis does. You've got Jeannie Buss, who's not sure, if she's going to go all in on winning a championship this year or save the 2027 and 2029 first-round picks. It's just like a mess. And then you got LeBron's agent and business partners involved. And it's like this, like a group of people that have to go along for this. So nothing gets done at some point because there's going to be 4 people that say, oh, yeah, we got to get rid of Russell Westbrook. And there'll be 5 people who say, oh, no, we can't trade him or we can't trade these draft picks. And you're just left in a quagmire. To run an organization correctly, you should have one person making this decision, not the Soviet Politburo. And that's what the Lakers have at this point. And that's why not a real well-run organization.
Right. In this first paragraph, explaining the whole process from Shams, he mentions, as you said, Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss, Kurt Rambis, LeBron James, Joey and Jesse Buss. So, that right there is by my count.
That?
Other Busses.
Kids, grandkids,
Lakers
cousins?
Executives Joey and Jesse Buss also were strongly considered in the process.
The Lakers need a reality show, like
so Darvin Ham also, like you said. So that's 7.
Darvin Ham. Yeah, I mean,
LeBron's
they're going to bring in Anthony
8.
Davis, bring him in. Who else? I mean, Linda Rambis, Jack Nicholson. I mean, just bring them all in and have 9, 11, some odd number of them because you can't have an even number because it's split.
You can't operate a team this way. You just you can't.
No.
You need somebody to say yes or no. You can't have everybody's opinions. We've heard about, this is a very old metaphor, too many cooks, in the kitchen.
Spoil the broth.
Spoil the broth, yeah. Right? So that's what's going on in Lakerland. It's just like if you have too many opinions, you become directionless, and that's the worst place you can possibly be in the NBA. If you wanted to just listen to LeBron, I don't think that he has the greatest track record in the world, but at least that's a direction. Just listen to LeBron.
Or you're keeping your best player happy, right? In the end, maybe he's all in if he's making that decision, I guess, and he's quite capable
Better
of making
that than this.
Than Rob Pelinka and, all the Busses and all the Rambises and whoever else is involved in making this decision. I mean, the Lakers may be the only franchise in all professional sports that have more decision makers than roster spots, right? Because you got 15 people on a basketball team. It sounds to me like they got more than 15 people deciding who is the next person the Lakers are going to go after, or if they're going to trade Russell Westbrook. It's a mess. I mean, they sometimes win in spite of themselves, but they've been like this for a while, really since Jerry West left, right? When West was there, he's the one who traded for Kobe Bryant on draft night from Charlotte. He's the one that was able to get Shaq there and then eventually get Phil Jackson to coach them. And then they won 3 titles together, and then they were able to get Paul Gasol a decade later and win 2 more titles. But other than that, it's not the best run organization. They sometimes just trip over themselves and stumble into greatness. Kobe Bryant, Shaq, we knew LeBron was going to end up playing there at some point. They got Anthony Davis. They won a title, but it's not really a well-run organization. And this, I think, is testament to that.
Yeah, Joey and Jesse Buss are the youngest of the 6 Buss kids, I guess. I think there's an age difference of 21 years between them. One of them, I think, Jesse and Jeannie Buss.
Jerry liked to get around. That's okay.
Jesus
Jerry was a playboy. I mean, he and Magic were best friends, and I think the common denominator was they like to have a good time. He was a playboy.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, this is just such a weird situation with the Lakers because there's just far, far too many opinions. The roster is weirdly constructed, to say the least. And now, Russell Westbrook, I just don't know how one-off season of practice and catch and shoot is going to suddenly make you a good 3-point play. I guess it could improve it slightly, but how many years has he been in the NBA, Sap? 12? And suddenly he's going to be a good 3-point shooter. That seems hard to believe.
Yeah, he turned into Ray Allen this summer. Did he have LASIK surgery? I don't know. Like what exactly transpired. I mean, his decision-making is still poor. Look, the Lakers are going to go depending on how healthy LeBron and Anthony Davis are. If those guys can give you 65 to 70 games and are engaged, they will contend because those 2 guys are that good. If they're able to make this trade with Indiana sooner rather than later, I think Miles Turner and Buddy Hield will be nice fits because Turner's a really good defender and rebounder, and Buddy Hield is an outstanding 3-point shooter. I think they certainly can contend because there is no super team in either the Western or Eastern Conference, so they can be there. But to hope that Russell Westbrook, a dozen years or more into his career is going to morph into something else is just wishful thinking.
So, Sap, you're a Laker fan by virtue of LeBron being there. Do you want them to make this trade?
Yeah. I just don't see Russell Westbrook ever fitting in. It might work for like the first 10 games. And then by the 11th game, Russell Westbrook's going to say, well, I'm going to go back to being me. That's just the way he is. He's probably the least, I would say he's probably the least self-aware athlete I've seen in my lifetime. And again, I like him personally. I do. I think he does so much charity work. He seems like a really good guy, good family man. He plays his ass off on offense, not defense. And he's made a really good career for himself, but he's not self-aware. Like at some point you've got to say, for me to fit into this team, I've got to do X, Y, and Z. I have to be different than I've been in other stops because I've got LeBron James, I've got Anthony Davis. Yeah, I'd like to see it because I've seen it work for 1 year, or in the case with Russell Westbrook last year, not work, that I would make this move, shake things up. And, this is an organization that, like the Celtics, they're measured by titles. If they're the 4 seed and get bounced out in the second round, that's not really a good year for the Lakers. So go all in, make a bold move. If it backfires, so be it. But if it works, you're a real title contender.
Yeah. So we'll have to see, if it does work. I have my doubts. And that leads us perfectly into our last segment of the show today, Sap. Since the season is just about to start, we got to do our power rankings. We're going to start with the Western Conference, though, and next show we'll do the Eastern Conference. So, Sap, you want to go bottom to top or top to bottom?
Let's do bottom to top, and to save time, just take teams that we know aren't really going to contend, right? I mean, look, anything could happen, right? Like someone could catch fire and a couple of young players could really grow and teams could really become contenders that would surprise us. I mean, the Phoenix Suns a couple of years ago, I don't think anybody expected them to go on to the finals, but they did add Chris Paul and they had Devin Booker. So, that wasn't maybe a wild surprise. I would say if you're looking at Utah, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Sacramento, and Houston, those 5 teams, I think are the bottom 5 teams in the Western Conference. They're all in a rebuilding mode.
Yeah, I have them as
on that.
My bottom 5 as well. I think the Jazz are the worst team in that conference by design. So, I feel really bad for poor Mike Conley. He's stuck on that Jazz team. I don't know what they're going to do with him. But yeah, the Jazz are really bad. But yes, I agree. Those are the worst 5 teams in the conference for sure. Thunder and Rockets, Spurs, Jazz, all very much rebuilding. The Kings are perennially rebuilding and have no clue what they're doing.
They haven't made the playoffs in 20 years. I mean, they're the Detroit Lions of the NBA, right? Like irrelevant. So those are the 5 worst teams in the conference. Houston's kind of rebuilding a little bit. They've got some nice young talent, but they're not going to contend for a playoff spot. So that leaves us with 10 teams that will probably be the 10 teams that make it to, I guess, the postseason. Although, teams 7, 8, 9, and 10 are considered part of the play-in tournament. So
right.
I think we're in agreement on who those 10 teams are. I got Portland at number 10. Dame Lillard's coming back. We'll see how that grows, but they've got some deficiencies. I have Portland at number 10. I think they can sneak in to the play-in tournament, and if Dame gets hot, maybe pull an upset or two, but I have them at number 10.
I do as well, Sap. Yeah, obviously you got the star and Dame Lillard. I think they made a nice move getting Jeremy Grant this offseason. We know that Joseph Nurkic's a good player when he's healthy. They have decent players. Anthony Simons is somebody that came into his own, averaging 20 points a game last year, but the sum of the parts isn't that good. They're lacking what they've, been lacking for most of Dame Lillard's career, which is a really strong, consistent all-star caliber second fiddle. And they don't have that.
I've got the Pelicans at number 9. Zion looks good in training camp. He's taking weight off. You've got Brandon Ingram. You got CJ McCollum. I mean, that's a pretty good big 3. The West is pretty deep, just as the East is. I mean, there's just so many good, solid teams in the NBA that being the 9th seed in the Western Conference, you might have a winning record. I think New Orleans could be a really tough team to deal with this year, provided Zion gives you 65 games, which might be a stretch since he's only played 85 games his first 3 years, but I got the Pelicans at number 9.
I have the Lakers at number 9 and the Pelicans at 8, Sap. I do like the Pelicans a lot. I think they're building something there. And like you said, if Zion could stay healthy, he's a huge difference maker. Just a couple of years ago, people were looking at him as the future face of the NBA. He still could be. But he's got to prove that he can stay healthy and in shape. But they did. I think Willie Green's an excellent coach, and they started to make a little bit noise in the play-in round, and then in the first round of the playoffs, they looked competent. So I like what they're doing there. And for the Lakers, as we alluded to, Seth, I don't understand the roster construction. I think they're old. They don't have any wings. And I don't believe that LeBron and Anthony Davis can stay healthy for a full season. I don't buy it. I especially Anthony Davis, and I don't believe Russell Westbrook's going to buy in. I don't see why it's going to be any better than last year, realistically.
They have a wide variance, though, right? So you have them at number 9, and in terms of Vegas, they're still pretty high as a title contender, partly because they have LeBron and Anthony Davis, huge names, and they are the Lakers. I mean, It's like the Cowboys always, are a top 10 team in the NFL in terms of odds to win the Super Bowl, even if they're not a real good team because they're the Cowboys. I have the Pelicans at 9, like I said. I have the Timberwolves at 8. Now, there's another team with a wide variance. Karl Anthony Towns coming off a great year. They've got a lot of talent. They added Rudy Gobert. They gave away a lot to get him. So we'll see what that looks like. He's I think, an overrated player. But again, they added a nice piece in Rudy Gobert. And I think the Timberwolves are wildly entertaining. But I think at this point, I have them at number 8.
Yeah, I actually like the Timberwolves. I have them a little bit higher than you, Sap. I have them at number 6. And it's because I like what I saw from them. I saw a little bit of fight in the postseason from them last year.
Yep.
I think that, Gobert, they gave up far, far too much to get him, but it was just draft capital. So that doesn't affect the team this year. Towns, Gobert, Anthony Edwards, and D'Angelo Russell, those are 4 legit players. And so, I think that they should be able to do something competent, but I have them at 6. At 7, right? I have the Suns. I just think that they're toast, honestly, Sap. Last year we thought that they were going to be in this sort of position, and I just think the Sarver cloud hanging over them. They just lost to a freaking team from Australia in preseason. I'm not in on the Suns at all this year, so I have the Timberwolves at 6, Suns at 7, or I should say 7 and 6.
Yeah, I've got the Suns at 7 myself, and I could see them drop. Chris Paul could just age right before our eyes. Devin Booker is a legit superstar. DeAndre Ayton doesn't even want to be there. He's not talking to his coach, Monty Williams. And the whole spectacle of Robert Sarver is going to, I think, suffocate this organization until they, in fact, sell the team. So I have the Suns at number 7. I have the Grizzlies at number 6. Now, they had the 3rd best record in basketball last year. And no, I take that back. They had the 2nd best record in basketball last
year.
They
did.
Yeah, behind only Phoenix. They had home court advantage against Golden State in the 2nd round of the Western Conference playoffs, and they had a legit chance to beat Golden State. I mean, remember John Morant missed half that series.
Yep.
They had some suspensions. Or they lost a couple of close games. I think they kind of stepped back a little bit this year. I have the Grizzlies at number 6, and as I said, I got the Suns at number 7.
Sap, just kind of going quickly here because we're running out of time. We just got about 3 minutes left. I'm just going to do my top 5 and then tell you how, and then hear yours. At 5, I got the Dallas Mavericks. As Luka goes, they go, but they didn't really do anything to replace Jalen Brunson. So I think that sort of caps them. I think Luka is going to remain fantastic. He may win MVP this year, but the team just isn't that good. At 4, I have the Grizzlies. You talked about them a second ago. At 3, I have the Denver Nuggets. I think that they're a dark horse championship contender if they can get Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray to be healthy throughout the season. That's a big if. They obviously have the 2-time reigning MVP in Nikola Jokic. At number 2, I have the Clippers. That's also a big if. They need Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to be healthy. And then number 1, I don't see how you can't have the Golden State Warriors there coming off a championship. They should be better based off of these young guys getting more experience. James Wiseman's looked really good in the preseason and in camp. We both like Kuminga. We like Moody. So I think they should be better. And I have them at number 1.
Yeah, I got the Mavericks at 5, the Lakers at 4, probably overrating them, but I think Anthony Davis is sitting on a monster year. And if he does play 65 or 70 games, I think they can contend. The Clippers at number 3, it's an election year, so we know Kawhi's committed to playing. Maybe takes next year off. I've got the Nuggets at number 2. If I had $100 to wager on any one team to win the NBA title this year because of the odds, I would take Denver. They're at 22-1. I think they're a legit contender. And you have to have the Warriors at number 1 without question. Defending champs, well-run organization, and they've got young players that will keep that train moving.
Yeah, absolutely. What I think is interesting about the Warriors is they can rest their stars, the older stars, Curry, Thompson, Green, and have guys to be able to play in those roles. Wiggins, Moody, Kuminga, Wiseman. That is a deep, really good roster.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we'll see how this shakes out. I have the Lakers at 9. Sap has the Lakers at 4. That's a pretty big variance there. I think that just shows how much Sap loves LeBron and the Lakers and how much I detest the Lakers. So that's probably what it is. I probably have them ranked a little too low. You have them ranked a little too high. But that's why you listen to this show, is for our opinions, right or wrong as they may be. And later in the week, we're going to do our Eastern Conference power rankings as the season is coming very close to starting. But that's going to do it for us here at the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap. Thanks to Full Press Coverage. Check out our social medias at JohnSap25, at Jet Stryer, and we will talk to you later. See you, everybody.